Hi everybody, I'm Ling Abson, leadership coach. So today I'll be answering your question. So somebody sent me a LinkedIn message and asked me this question, and I thought, why not record a video so that not just her, but everybody else listening in can benefit from this question as well. So the question is, I'd like to get effective answers from team members within my team who's maybe a little quiet compared to team members who are maybe a little bit more talkative, and get the conversation evenly transitioning from icebreaker and to the topic of about the sprint in action. So having a big team, 14 team members, can be nerve-wracking as the first retro. So how do I make sure I can really improve how I run a retro? So I would say, first of all, set ground rules as you transition from an icebreaker into the retro topic. So ground rules I like to set is, as an example, let's just pretend we're in a retro right now. So I'll say, all right, we're transitioning into the topic about talking about the last sprint. So I want to set a couple of ground rules in place. The first one would be everybody will have roughly 2 minutes for each topic or each sticky note. Please speak concisely because there's a lot of sticky notes. So talk about your idea, maybe 1 or 2 sentences to describe what that idea is about. So that's an example of how I might approach setting ground rules. If you're using slide, because we're now everybody's remote doing virtual retros, so you can put that up as a slide. So I find setting that ground rules set expectation that we don't want team members to go into this deep dive on a sticky note on an idea, but just really concisely. Another one is sometimes what I'll do is instead of waiting for people to volunteer themselves, I will pick quieter folks to start first. And typically sometimes when I go into a retro, I may have, say, product managers, leaders of the team. They tend to be so used to leading, so used to deciding, so used to being assertive. The engineers of the team are so used to kind of just lean back and kind of let the conversation kind of flow and not contributing. So sometimes I would actually pick team members who are not in leadership positions and ask them to speak first. And then I will pick the team lead last or the product manager last. Sometimes by the time you get to them, all the ideas that they have been shared in some form or another. So sometimes by the time it gets to them, they tend to hold back a little bit more, or they tend to be a little bit more focused in their conversation. Lastly, be comfortable with interrupting. So I know interrupting sometimes is not our nature. As a kid, we've been taught, hey, don't interrupt. So sometimes we've been conditioned not to interrupt. So I would say if interrupting is difficult, practice a little bit, just small interruptions here and there. Sometimes I often interrupt. I often would kind of, can you, instead of somebody going deep dive, I would quickly kind of go, oh, maybe we want to, is it okay if we take this a little offline? We're not ready to deep dive on that idea yet. So let's move on to the next sticky note. Or I may say something like, I just want to make sure we are on track. So let's kind of make sure we're concise with the description of our sticky notes so that we leave time for other people to share as well. So you're using statements that are clear, statements that are kind and not rude. So interrupting isn't as bad as we think it is. So that sometimes can really help keep things a little bit more on track, especially when you are trying to facilitate a retro for a big team. Sometimes if you find your team is just so big that having each person share is just too much for the allocated time. So what I like to do is actually just forming breakout groups. So having maybe them work in pairs on a topic. So it could be, let's say I'm doing a simple retro on start, stop, continue. For start, I'll say, okay, let's break out in groups of 3 or in groups of 2, or maybe more if you have a big group. Everyone do a start, and then come up with ideas among yourself. and then bubble up the top 3 things this breakout group wants to keep. So this way you can move along a little bit more, a little bit faster and a little bit more streamlined. Okay, so recap: set ground rules, ask folks to speak concisely. You're also sort of training them, right, to really be able to focus in on what they want to share without getting into the stories and deep diving on details that may not be relevant. Choose quiet folks to speak first, interrupt, and lastly, breakout groups. All right, I hope this is helpful. And please, if you have any questions, ideas that maybe you want to see more of, let me know and add a comment. All right, take care. Bye.